Hey guys, it's Rob with Blackhat Jiu Jitsu Club. Today I'm going to talk about finishing details for a Darce choke. Okay, so we're going to start looking at this Darce from a front headlock scenario. However, a lot of times you can hit Darces from all over the place. Anytime that I have an overhook and he has an underhook, right, or I'm kind of over his arm, sometimes his hand doesn't even have to be around my waist, it can be on the mat. Any overhook scenario, that's where we're going to be able to feed our Darce. So it doesn't have to happen from turtle, but a lot of times we just like to learn it from turtle because it's a very easy position to understand, okay? So he's gonna turtle, and what we're looking to do is take any standard front headlock scenario where I have a chin strap or one arm around the head, and I have a second arm either at behind the tricep, sometimes it's under, hands connected, just a variety, but what I'm looking to do to set up this Darce is take this secondary arm that's controlling his arm here, his shoulder, and I wanna start sliding it through deep so my hand starts coming out on the other side of his neck. So I'm gonna switch sides here so you can see. This is now my overhook, and we're gonna be sliding it here. What I like to do is I like to sometimes just connect the hands and start moving them together. But really what I would like to do is get my hands connected and get some pressure on the back of his head. All right, as far as grips, 10 finger, gable grip. Some people like to use this bolt cutter grip. That's fine too. But at the end of the day, I want to be able to get pressure on the back of his neck, and I want to get my overhook deep enough that I'm connected to the far side of the neck, okay? And now at this point, in my opinion, there's two different variations. There's the Darce finish where I'm on the bottom. There's Darce finish where I'm on the top, okay? We're going to go over where I'm on the top first, just because finishing from the bottom can be a little risky, and we'll talk about that. So what I want to do from this 3/4 Nelson is I want to crank his head under his near armpit. I want to drive into his body, and I want to start circling hip to hip and start breaking him down onto his hip. Now, one key detail is if I stay too much in the north-south angle, there's a chance that his elbow comes high over his head and he flattens out into north-south. So I want to make sure that I keep chest pressure. As soon as he gets down, I want to keep chest pressure on the tricep, helping control that elbow. All right? I don't want the elbow to come up over the head. I don't want the elbow to come down towards his hips. I want to try to smash his elbow towards his chin. Okay, so I'm right here. All right, I'm using my chest, and look how I kind of stay in this side-on angle instead of this north-south angle, so I can keep pressure, pushing that elbow towards his face. It's very important to get my choke arm deep. I can sometimes pull it through. I can lift at the ear and pull it through. There's a lot of methods, but at the end of the day, I have to be able to get at least my wrist sticking through so I can transition to my figure four. Okay, so that's basically just getting to the Darce. That's not so much the finishing details. This is just setting up. But let's just talk about one, probably the most important concept here, okay? What I have to be able to do is I have to be able to eliminate his shoulder from the choke, okay? And what that means is, let's look at a triangle. Any head and arm choke, we're gonna deal with the same issue, okay? When I'm locking any kind of choke that involves his shoulder and his head, if his shoulder is far away from his neck, it's very hard to get pressure into the spot with just the squeeze of the lock. Okay, so what always helps is when we bring this elbow closer to the face, we can start to eliminate that shoulder from the choke. See here, his shoulder's in the choke, and when his elbow is wide, it's very hard to eliminate that shoulder. The closer I get his elbow towards his face, the better chance I have of eliminating that shoulder from the choke. Okay, and really I want my squeezing pressure to be coming in here instead of coming into the back of his lat. Okay, so it's the same shoulder elimination concept from the Darce. I'm going to show you how to do that. Go ahead and up. Okay, we're here. Get to my 3/4 Nelson. Break him down. I maintain this side-on angle right here. I'm getting my choke arm deep. I lock my figure four. Now here's a problem. Off that initial lock, I still have a lot of pressure coming in the back of his armpit, his lat area. And I need to be able to transition that by eliminating the shoulder. So here's the move that we use, okay? We're gonna go head over head, and we're gonna take our support hand as high as it goes, okay? So see how my ear is on his lat? I'm gonna kind of switching my hips, right? Right hip is down, I'm gonna be switching my hips, head over head, support hand high. Switching my hips, head over head, support hand high. And now look how you can kind of see that I'm not pressuring his lat anymore. I have a lot more pressure on the back of his tricep, the base of his tricep and rear delt. And as we're here, this is now eliminating the shoulder. Now, if I really want to get great connection, sometimes the forearm pressure is more back here from this position. What I like to do to adjust this pressure is start to flatten him out. It gets the pressure coming a little bit closer to the carotid, but ultimately my finishing pressure comes from retracting my choking elbow. I have my figure four here. I eliminate the shoulder by moving head over head, support hand high. Now I'm going to try to adjust the pressure of my strangle arm by starting to push into him. Okay, and really the finishing pressure comes from retracting my choking elbow. It's my right elbow towards the ceiling. Okay, it would be stronger the closer my hips are to his hips. So walking towards the knee on belly, stepping to mount, all those things are improvements. But at the end of the day, if I have the right angle with my forearm on that carotid, my arms are strong enough to finish this, okay? Just sometimes it's difficult when you have someone moving their hips a lot, they're trying to get out of this, it's hard to get that stabilization, so it makes a lot more sense to settle them. Now I'm doing that same thing, retracting that choking elbow back towards like a lat row. We're gonna look at finishing details from bottom, but let's look at a couple ways that people commonly try to ruin this, okay? Go ahead and set up the Darce here. Good. Number one, if my elbow gets far away from my face, it's gonna be easier for me to breathe and make space on this side. So that's why it's so important to control this elbow. My elbow either goes here, or it goes here, and I flatten out. Okay, so it's very important to try and control that elbow with the chest pressure. Get it stuck right here. That's where you want it to be. Very good. People will try to go back, if they run back to turtle here, it's hard, but now it can ruin that angle and ruin that pressure on the tricep. And look how now, again, my arm gets wide and I'm talking completely normally. Okay, so keeping that elbow pressured in towards the face is very important. Okay, he wants to crank me down here. He wants to get that chest, get that elbow smashed in my face. And that's perfect, okay? Let's look at some details of finishing from the bottom. We can start to set this up again from the turtle, okay? And now what we're gonna do is, this is how I like to do this. I would not like to shoot this Darce without my lock first, okay? Because what happens as I start to sit is it becomes very hard to keep dominant pressure on this head. If this elbow ever crosses my body, I'm just gonna get pinned in north-south, okay? This is not gonna be any submission, this is not gonna work out. So I always have to make sure that I have enough weight coming through this upper body, head, and shoulder to prevent this elbow from coming up and over, okay? So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll be here and we'll kind of lock it like this, okay? So it's not, remember, I want to finish with this support hand all the way up on this side. But sometimes this is just what you can reach because it's hard to get this arm deep when he's on his elbows. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit and I'm going to, again, try to push this elbow close to his face, and it's going to help me get an opportunity to eliminate the shoulder. So we lock that figure four, we're kind of cupping the far tricep, and as I sit, I'm pushing his elbow in. Now look at me again, eliminate the shoulder by sliding my hips around and getting my support hand high. Now, look at where my arm is right now. I'm not pressuring into the lat. I'm pressuring into the rear delt / tricep. Versus when I started, look at how I'm pressuring into his near lat on this side. Look at my right bicep pushing into his lat. So I want to eliminate that pressure into the lat and armpit and move it to the rear delt and tricep. I do that by pushing his elbow closer to his face, walking my hips away, and look how I'm starting to eliminate that shoulder as I slide my support hand up. Again, the finishing mechanic is retracting this choking elbow. Now I'm pulling it down to my own hip. So some of the most important details, number one, is dominating their elbow that's inside the choke, because we need that elbow to get close to the face so we can eliminate the shoulder from the choke. If that elbow is way too wide, there's too big of a gap here, the shoulder stays in the choke, the pressure is in the armpit. If that elbow comes way overhead, a lot of times they can kind of like rotate out and go belly up and north-south. So dominate the elbow, get it close to the head. Now we're gonna eliminate the shoulder on top by going head over head. And on bottom, it's by walking our hips in, and then our finishing pressure needs to come from retracting our choking elbow to our ribs.